Hi, Klaus Devore. I'm going to tell you how I go about doing a remix of an original song. There's a number of steps that I follow, sometimes in a particular order, sometimes it's very iterative, and therefore I have to sort of go backwards and forwards. So essentially, this is a kind of simple insight into how I do it. So, first of all, I choose the song. Then I extract the stems, which means that the original song is split out into the drum track, the vocals, the bass, the instruments. And I'll be honest, the two main ones I'm really interested in are the drums and the vocals. Once I've split out those stems, I look at the drum sequence and find out what the tempo is, and that's how many beats per minute. Most songs are probably in the 115 to 145 beats per minute. Clearly, there's going to be variations on a theme, but most sort of music is in that realm, unless it's a particularly slow ballad or it's some really high tempo punk song that's at 160 beats per minute. So I identify the tempo. One thing to mention though is the tempo might not be constant throughout. So some of the older songs, the tempo can vary, not intentionally, but it's because the original's been recorded without a metronome or a click track. So I've tended to find songs late 70s, early 80s go from a position where the tempo drifts to something that's more metronomic because people started to use drum machines and click tracks and what have you. So once I've extracted the stems and I've identified the tempo, I then listen to the quality of the vocal extract because some vocal extracts do not come out very well. And I think I've mentioned this before because if the vocals are heavily processed with loads of effects, they bleed into the other tracks. So when you're then trying to extract, it becomes problematic and the quality is or can be an issue. Now, sometimes you can remove glitches by fiddling about with EQ, which is like the frequencies, that you can remove unwanted frequencies from the vocal track. But it is difficult, or it can be. Some vocal tracks are really easy to use because they haven't had massive vocal treatments, if you like. And so therefore they extract very easily. And I've said before, Gary Newman. So once I've looked at the vocals and I've kind of got the belief that they're good enough to work with, then I listen to the original drum patterns and create very simple drum patterns so that I've got a beat to work with for the song. And I'll come back to the drum patterns a bit later on and make them a little bit more elaborate if that's necessary. The next thing I do is listen to the bass stem that I've extracted and understand which notes have been used, what kind of pattern, what kind of sequence. So I create an equivalent bass pattern, normally for the whole song. Then I look at chords or pads and I build up the chord structure for the song. Then I kind of focus on any melodies they've got. So just normally replicating the melodies and the riffs that have been used. Then I start to build on things and create drum fills, which allow you then to transition from the verse to the bridge to the chorus. I may also use some sound effects to move from one part of the song to another. Then I may listen to the sounds that I've used, so maybe the bass sound or the chords I've used, and change them to make them more appropriate to the song. So in reality, you're building, and it's a very iterative process, and you just need to listen to what you're doing and then come back to it. The next thing I do, as I've highlighted earlier, is I may make the drum patterns a bit more sophisticated, a bit more different. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Then I start to use effects. So that may be reverb, that may be delay, that may be compression, that may be, I guess, in some cases, a flanger. There's a whole range of effects now on the digital audio workstation that I do all my music on. I may even use samples from the original song or from something entirely different. I may create my own samples. And then as I go forward, I may add layers to the chords to create a deeper and sort of thicker effect to the sounds. I may even take sounds away to simplify, because sometimes you can have too much and you've got to strip it back. And then as I'm kind of nearing the end of the initial phase, I will look at EQ levels, and that may be taking out some high frequencies, some low frequencies. It just depends. I'll go into each individual section. So the bass, I'll listen to the lower frequencies as they're too much. I will strip out the higher frequencies if they're not needed. And it's just about creating a bit more space in the mix and also reducing noise, because you can overlay it and have too many things going on at once. One thing I then start to do once I'm getting a bit more confident about what I've done is get the volume levels closer to the standard required by YouTube, which is -1 decibel. That is their requirement if you're going to post a music video. And I start to move in an iterative way towards that. I don't always get there straight away because there's things I might do later on. Then I probably pause at that point and listen to the original version again to see if I've missed anything, if there's transitions that I've perhaps not remembered, or there's just some drum patterns that are a bit quirky that I haven't built into the original. And when I do the remix, I don't always try for it to be like for like. I do follow the original, but then I'll add additional elements to it. Some are going to be more similar, but sometimes I go a little bit more off-piste. And I'll do a compare and contrast, in terms of the remix I've done. How does it sound in terms of when it's compared with the original, in terms of the drum sounds, the bass? Is it punchy enough? Are the vocals actually okay? So it's that kind of thing. And then ultimately, it's like modeling clay or doing, I don't want to make it sound really sophisticated, but imagine with an oil painting, there's a number of times that you may go back and review. And that's one of the key things, is to give it a rest, sleep on it, come back to it another time with a fresh set of ears to see if there's things that you're missing. And that's the crucial bit, is leave it for a few hours, leave it for a few days, leave it for a few weeks. I mean, sometimes coming back to something, you just think, whoa, there's too much bass there, or the intro's weak, or it just doesn't live up to the expectation. So it's do all of those things. Patience is a virtue. Some remixes come quicker. Sometimes that's by luck. Some remixes are more difficult because of the way the song's been put together. And it's an iterative process. So rinse and repeat, come back, check things out, and then take a review, take time out, come back and have another look. And there comes a point where you go, I think I'm there, I think we're okay, and this might be good enough to go out there. And then it's about creating a video, which is a whole separate thing altogether. But these things can take hours and hours and hours. And I'm one of these sad people that does this from scratch. I'm not creating YouTube content that literally takes me minutes to do. This is taking a long time. So it's a labor of love. And as I've said before, the reason I do these things is I love the music from these periods of time, late 70s, early 80s. I love trying to find out how the songs are put together, how they were layered, the bass lines, the drum patterns, that sort of stuff, and create an alternative impression of it. Not because I want it to be better, but simply to offer an alternative after 40 years. Some people like the originals, they like them better. That's fine. The original's there. I'm not changing the original. I'm creating a new impression, and some people hopefully will like it. So there we are. I hope that's useful. One final thing, the digital audio workstation that I use is called FL Studio. If you ever want to know more about that, let me know. I'm not a power user for FL Studio, but I know what it's capable of. There are many other digital audio workstations that can be used for this, but FL Studio is my preference. So thanks for listening once more. And if you've got any comments or questions, let me know. Thanks very much.